You are not building discipline. You are just decorating the fantasy. There is a difference. When you spend an hour designing the perfect workspace and color-coding the study plan, you feel prepared. Your brain cannot curate the aesthetic of productivity and execute the uncomfortable work at the same time. Therefore, every session feels incomplete. Every night ends with the setup done and nothing learnt. You call it taking learning seriously. But seriousness is not what you are practicing. What you are practicing is delay. The desk is clean. The lighting is perfect. The playlist is curated. The notebook looks expensive. None of that is the work. You already knew that. But you keep returning to the setup anyway. Because the setup never asks anything of you. It never exposes what you do not know. It never forces you to sit with confusion. It never reveals whether you actually understand. The aesthetic protects you from that. Therefore, you keep perfecting it. You keep buying the right pens, downloading the right app, watching someone else study for 3 hours on a live stream, as if watching discipline will transfer it into your body. It will not. The only thing that transfers is the illusion of progress. Your brain registers the environment as evidence. Evidence that you are trying, evidence that you care, evidence that you are the kind of person who values growth. But caring about growth and actually growing are not the same thing. One requires intention, the other requires discomfort, and discomfort does not photograph well. Nobody posts the part where they close the notes and realize they remember nothing. Nobody films the 10 minutes of staring at the wall, trying to explain a concept out loud from memory and failing. Nobody shares the moment their brain goes blank and they have to sit there anyway. That part is not aesthetic. That part does not get likes. That part does not feel productive. But that part is the only part that works. The moment you stop recognizing information and start retrieving it, that is when your brain actually builds the connection. Scrolling through your notes and nodding along is not learning. It is just recognition, and recognition costs nothing. It demands nothing. It changes nothing. Therefore, you can do it for hours and still know nothing. You can rewrite the same notes in 4 different colors. You can watch the same explanation video 3 times. You can organize your folders into subfolders. None of that forces your brain to work. What forces your brain to work is the question you cannot answer. The concept you thought you understood until you tried to say it without looking. The gap between what you thought you knew and what you can actually explain. That gap is where growth lives. But you avoid it, because sitting in that gap feels like failing. Your brain interprets struggle as evidence that you are not smart enough. Therefore, you return to the part that feels safe. You return to the setup, the routine, the environment, the performance of being someone who studies, and the performance looks flawless. But flawless is not the goal. The goal is competence, and competence only comes from repeatedly doing the thing you are not yet good at. Not the thing that looks good, not the thing that feels comfortable, not the thing that protects your ego, the thing that makes you feel stupid, confused, exposed. Therefore, the fix is not better organization. The fix is closing everything. No notes, no guides, no safety net. Just you, and the question of whether you actually retained anything. That is the test. That is the work. That is what your brain mistakes for failure. But it is not failure. It is just the first honest repetition, the first time you are not performing, the first time you are not managing how it looks, the first time you stop avoiding the result, and the result will be ugly, incomplete, frustrating. Therefore, you will want to quit. You will want to return to the system, the plan, the environment that made you feel like you were doing something. But feeling like you are doing something is not the same as actually doing it. One is decoration, the other is construction. And construction does not need the right lighting. It does not need the right music. It does not need an audience. It just needs you sitting with what you do not yet know, trying to explain it, failing, trying again, failing better. That is the loop. That is the mechanism. That is the part you have been skipping. Therefore, you are not stuck because you lack discipline. You are stuck because you keep mistaking the environment of discipline for the act itself. The athlete does not need the perfect gym. The writer does not need the perfect desk. The student does not need the perfect setup. They need the willingness to sit down and not know yet. But not knowing feels dangerous. It feels like proof that you are behind. Unprepared. Not ready. Therefore, you delay. You add one more system, one more organizational layer, one more aesthetically pleasing ritual that keeps you busy without ever making you better. And your brain rewards you for it. It releases dopamine when the setup is complete. It signals progress when the environment looks right. But that signal is a lie. Progress is not the feeling of being ready. Progress is moving before you feel ready. It is starting the test without studying every edge case. It is explaining the concept before you have it memorized. It is building the thing before the plan is perfect. Therefore, the shift is not about working harder. Therefore,
that the re the therefore right?
You already know this. You have always known, therefore. The question is not what to do. The question is whether you are willing to stop performing and start failing in private, whether you are willing to look like nothing while you become something. The aesthetic will not save you. The environment will not carry you. The setup will not do the work for you. You will, or you will keep decorating the fantasy and wondering why nothing ever changes. One builds competence. The other builds the illusion. You already know which one you have been choosing, always.